Chuck and Bob with you on a Thursday as we preview the weekend of high school basketball, a weekend that really starts tonight in a lot of areas. And we'll start up in the state of Michigan. We could talk about the girls' game tonight between Brandywine and Buchanan. We could talk about the boys' game tomorrow night. They're both going to be pretty good. Bobcats and the Bucks renewing their rivalry. But let's focus on the boys' game for a moment because Brandywine's boys undefeated at 8-0. Nathan Knapp's team off to a terrific start. Buchanan comes in, though, with a record of 4-1 into this one, coming off a 10-point win over Niles on Tuesday night.
Yeah, big conference implications in this one. And the thing about Buchanan and Brandywine is they know each other so well. Yeah. It's a heated rivalry. It's St. Joe, Marion. It's Mishawaka, Penn. This game means an awful lot to both those teams.
If you look at this Brandywine team, they've got a nice inside-outside combination going right now. Kendall Chrisman down on the post, Jalen Briggs on the outside. They did very well in the win over Coloma last Saturday. So we'll see how this one goes. It's at the Bobcat Den on Friday night. Good one up in Michigan. But let's move on down into Indiana. Duneland Conference rivalry coming up on Friday night. Kyle Benge and the LaPorte Slicers. Yes, they have the at-large brothers, and they're averaging 30 points a game. But can they handle this Chesterton team that's 12-1? We saw Chesterton in the regional last year, and they haven't taken a step back at all. They've still got the big fella Jake Wadding as well.
No question about it. I think LaPorte will be well coached, and I think they'll be well prepared. But again, Chesterton is expecting to win. They got over the hump early last year with that mental attitude of expecting to be able to win every game, and this is a big rivalry as well between LaPorte and Chesterton.
As we mentioned, Trojans 12-1 and atop the Duneland Conference. This would be a nice upset if LaPorte can go into Chesterton and get that win. A couple big games in the Northern Lakes Conference this week. We'll start with Goshen at Warsaw. Goshen may be one of the surprise teams of the area this year. Michael Wolford's team got off to a great start. They've tailed off a little bit as of late, but they have a nice inside-outside combination going. Drew Hogan, the sophomore guard on the outside, Jake Barker down on the post. But we saw Warsaw last week, and even though they lost, you got to come away impressed with the Tigers. They have balance, and they play very, very tough.
Yeah, no, again, this will be a well-scouted team, and the thing about Goshen is they surprised a few people early in the season, but I think people have gotten a pretty good book on them now, and so their success is waning just a bit. Warsaw will be well prepared. They need a win. Warsaw's got to stay in that conference race. They've got to get a win at Goshen. And again, Warsaw is a very good team. They understand the fundamentals of the game. But Chuck, I got to believe that if this one's over 50, it's going to favor Goshen.
If it's over 50, you say it favors Goshen. I'm not so sure. I think Warsaw doesn't mind playing with that kind of tempo in mind offensively. They have some good three-point shooters. We saw Wyatt Amos light it up a little bit in the second half last week. Can Luke Adamek and Jalen Kuhn get on track and give them some offense down low? And I think playing at the Tiger Den will help Warsaw immensely in this one.
Oh, he does, doesn't it?
Now, Northridge is tied for the lead in the Northern Lakes Conference, but they have to go into the Panther Pit on Friday night. Of course, Northridge, you talk about Alex Stauffer, but that guy, Carter Stoltzfus, was our player of the game last week. And even though Sam Smith leads them in scoring, I kind of think Stoltzfus might be the key to this team.
And I thought maybe because of Sam Smith's reputation, scoring ability, he got a lot of defensive attention. Stoltzfus was wide open for some of his shots. Did a great job and really picked him up, especially early. They get the big man, Stouffer, inside, who's really good. Both these teams kind of on a streak. They both put it together the last few weeks, so something's got to give in this one.
The last time Northridge went to Northwood, they won in triple overtime, but that was 2 years ago. This is a different-looking team now with Brock Flickinger, who's committed to Huntington, and then you've got the big fella Jason Borkholder trying to come back from the injury. Trent Edwards, though, has really been the key to Northwood's offense this year.
And like a lot of teams that we see early in the season, looking for one more player to step up, somebody they can count on for 10 or 12 points a game. And so Northwood is, I think, classically in that mode, but they've got a couple of guys who can do that for them.
I mentioned the weekend gets under, I almost said the season. The weekend gets underway tonight with a bunch of games in the NIC. And one of them is the big city rivalry between Washington and Adams over at Hadaway Shack. Now, Washington's coming off a 1-point loss to Elkhart Memorial on Tuesday. DeMarcus Vaughn is having a good season. Jylan Petty's been a little bit banged up. But if you can go tonight, you're going against your city rivals over there at Hadaway Shack. And they're going to need all hands on deck because Adams at 12-1, leading the NIC, is really well balanced with Braden Saxton on the inside and Quintez Columbus on the outside.
And we got to see them earlier this year knock off a really good Marion team. This is a team with so much balance that it's really hard to scout them. And I think everybody's on the same page. And their head coach has done such a good job since he went over to Adams. And we have a lot of respect for him and the job that he's done every place he's been.
But don't forget the fact that Chad Johnston was at Washington before he went to Adams. Adds just a little more juice to this rivalry tonight as well, don't you think?
As if you needed more juice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in the NIC on Friday night, you've got Riley going to Marion. Of course, you talk about Riley, you have to talk about Blake Wesley. He's averaging about 25 points a game, getting looks from D1 institutions. And Riley has been a little bit up and down this year as they kind of try to find themselves in their first year under Andre Owens.
Yeah, I think Andre's a good guy, and obviously has a lot of credentials with the Riley program. But I think some of the things that have happened early in the season, there's a lot of transition going on. But they do have some talent. But I tell you what, this is going to be a tough one between Riley and Marion.
But are they catching Marion at a good time? Because Jerry Bracey and company coming off that emotional 2-point win at St. Joe, their arch rivals on Tuesday night. It would be only natural to have a letdown, and if you do against Riley, you're asking for trouble.
Well, keep in mind, we talk about coaches associations. Rob Berger might have played at Riley High School. He understands that whole dynamic, and I think he'll have the Knights ready to go.
So we'll look forward to seeing what Declan Sullivan and the Knights can do against the Wildcats in that NIC game. And then where will we be on Friday night? We've got a Hoosier North Athletic Conference game for you as Knox at 7-3 on the year goes down to Dale E. Cox Gymnasium in Lakeville to take on the LaVille Lancers. I guess for Knox, they're going up to Dale Cox Gymnasium. Right. The Redskins, we saw them at practice yesterday. Very big, physical team. Cole McIntyre is a nice post player. They've got a guy by the name of Gunnar Wagner that can drive and dish and do a lot of good things for them. 7-3. This is a nice year that Rob Kruger's team has going on right now.
They really are, and they've got probably 4 or 5 pieces that fit in that puzzle really well. Michael Edison told us when we were down there for practice that they're very physical. They're going to bump you every time down the floor, so you got to be able to handle that. And LaVille is a team that has some younger players that are a big part of it. They've got a young man named Good who's also a very good player.
Well, Bobby Good has improved a lot, and that young man, Connor Wazorek, has been around for what seems like 8 years. He's a 4-year varsity player, senior point guard who really steers the ship. And LaVille's got some other contributors as well. They're 5-3. This would be a big win in the Hoosier North Athletic Conference, and it would keep their conference title hopes alive if they can knock off the Redskins. Easier said than done. We'll show it to you Friday night on YouTube and Facebook. Graphic says 7:45, might be more like 8 o'clock because the girls' game starts at 6:30. But we'll have it for you live on YouTube and Facebook, and then, of course, on TV 46 Friday night at 11 and Saturday morning at 9. Until then, from my partner Bob Nagel, Chuck Freeby, thanks for joining us for our 46 Sports social media preview.